Hi friends, it's Jen Quintana here, and I am doing my first actual real video for YouTube. I've been doing some podcasts on podcast channels and sharing them also here on YouTube, but I decided today that it's time to actually be live on camera. So my camera's not the best. I might have to invest in a better camera, so bear with me. But today what I wanted to talk about is something that I'm going to be doing and sharing on my website as part of a masterclass, and it's really it's kind of a series of steps that I've gone through myself and then documented, and then in addition to those steps, there are some phases that you can go through to manifest the lifestyle that you want to have. And so for many of you, you've watched my or listened to my podcast about how I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and my parents, who they were, and how my life has been. I also did a podcast about my name and being married before, and I've done a podcast about my career and kind of what got me to this point. So you know a little bit about my history already, and I just wanted to kind of share some of the thought processes and steps that got me to where I am today. And so that if that inspires you, you can apply those steps to your life and design your best life. So the first one, there's 5 steps really, and then there's 3 phases to manifesting and designing your dream life. So the first one really, the first 5 steps really are kind of a series of steps. And the first one is really, who are we? So we have to start where we are, and where we are is in our bodies and in our life. And so the first wisdom that really I had to sit with and question on my journey, the very first question was, or the first knowing was that we all chose to be born to our parents in this time and place. Now, that is a far out thought for someone who was raised like me in a fundamentalist Christian religion that really doesn't teach that. And so when I read that wisdom, and I heard it from the Waldorf teachers that were teaching my children at school, and I read it in Steiner's philosophy, and then I found out that many other philosophies, Eastern philosophies, also hold this to be true, that we have many lives and that we incarnate to learn lessons, and that the earth is the life school. And so as I was really kind of being open-minded to this idea that we chose our parents and we chose to be born in this time and place, I really had to grapple with, like, why would I choose this? Why would I choose to be born into a very dogmatic and restrictive religion? And why did I choose to be born to my parents? And there are a couple books that I've read that really have helped to explain that to me and to show me that everything has a reason, even if it seems completely illogical. And then also one of the big things for me was trying to understand why my sister, Linda, who had polio, why she suffered so much. Why would she choose to be born into a life with so much suffering? And so for me, what I have done is I've kind of done some exploration into the various places where you can find out information about who was I before I was born, that I chose this, right? So who's this bigger side of myself? Who's my higher self that is in this body, in this incarnation, in this lifetime? But who's that soul that maybe I'm not conscious of that chose this for this lifetime? And so there's some super sleuthing that we can do in the spiritual world, which is really fun and exciting, and I love doing it. And so one of the first places that you can find out information about yourself is really through your date of birth. So when you add up all of the numbers of your birth date, you get to a life path number. And you add them together. So like I'm April 10th, 1972. So I add 4 plus 10 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 2. And then you get to a double digit number, and then you add those 2 numbers together. And so I'm a life path 6. And so then you can find lots of information on the internet about life path 6 and what that means for you. There's one book that I read that really combines the life path number of your birth date with your astrological sign as well. And for me, astrology, there's many different ways of looking at astrology. There's the Western astrology, there's sidereal astrology, there's the equal house system, there's the not equal house system. There's also lunar calendar astrology, like the Chinese astrology. So you have to kind of combine astrological signs all together. In Western astrology, I am an Aries, and so I've done the most reading about myself as an Aries. I have a Leo rising, so I also read about myself as having a Leo rising. And then I have many aspects within my astrological chart, and I like to read for each aspect and see what is that aspect about. And sometimes I can really see when I do that, oh, this aspect is why I behave this way, or this aspect is why I have a propensity towards this thing, or why I like this. So I can start to see those things in myself when I read for each aspect. And you have to get like you can get a book that has what the meaning of each aspect is. You could Google them too, I'm sure. And so there's a little bit more research involved in that. But on the surface level, you can just say, like, what's my sun sign? What's my rising sign? What's my moon sign? A lot of people put a lot of importance on the moon sign. I don't so much, but it's interesting to me that people will be attracted to you based on your moon sign. And when spouses have opposite moon signs, like if my husband's moon sign was my sun sign and my moon sign was his sun sign, that would make us like super attracted to each other. And I know couples that have that. So I'm an Aries with a Leo rising, but my moon is in Pisces. And Pisces isn't normally too compatible with Aries and Leo. But because I have Pisces as a moon sign, I tend to attract Pisces. And then I overwhelm them quickly because I'm an Aries with Leo rising. I'm a double fire sign, and I can be super intense, apparently. Yeah, so just knowing that about myself, like, oh, I attract Pisces men, and I'm not good for them, so I should just not date them. and then I know I'm an Aries with a Leo rising, so I have a lot of fire. So then I also know about people that I am with, like how I mesh with them. If I'm with an earth sign, then that really grounds me. I'm fire. If I'm with an air sign, that really can like fan my flames and make me be like even more excited and fiery. And if I'm with water, my sister, or actually my sister's an earth sign. My ex-husband was a water sign. They just tend to dampen me and put me out. So I'm done. So knowing that about myself, I'm double fire, but I have this Pisces moon, which makes me super interested in spiritual things. And I'm a rat. I'm a Chinese year of the rat. So I tend to like to be super prepared, like to store up things. I don't just have one toothpaste in the cabinet, I have 10. And so I have to know that about myself too. I have a tendency towards storing up and stocking up and being prepared. So that's who I am. And I'm a life path 6. So when I read this one book that talked about life path numbers in conjunction with the astrological sign, and Aries life path 6 specifically talked about being successful in business, having business goals, and that certainly has been part of my career path as being in business. I always thought I wanted to be an artist when I was a kid, but that's not how it worked out for me. And having many children. I have 3 children. I would probably have more if my husband was into it, but 3 children is still a considerable amount of children, considering we have many friends who have no children. So having children and being successful in business are part of my life path, and so that's who I am. And then the other things that you can look to find out like who you are, which I think is always super interesting, is if there are any birth stories about how you were born. I apparently took a really long time to be born. It was a really difficult and long labor for my mother. And I've always been kind of slow to get things done. And I was slow arriving, took my time. And for my children, I think their birth stories also say something about their character and who they are. And so those are things that I think are part of who they are before they were born here. And then the other thing that's interesting is, where did I choose to be born? And so I chose to be born in California, right? Los Angeles. And I chose to be born to my parents. One was super older than my other parent. My father was 50 when I was born. My mother was 25. And I didn't have any illnesses when I was born, because illnesses is another thing that's really interesting. Some people say that childhood illnesses are more related to the parents' karma, and what they're projecting and working out. But certainly some can come in and follow with the child. So I've known people who were born with things that were clearly from a past life, that they had to work through, or got things as a child, illnesses as a child that were probably karmically related as well. And then I've also known families where an infant or a child had cancer. And in some of those circumstances, it seems like that might have been more of something for the parents to work through. And I know that's really hard to hear. Part of knowing that believing in past lives and karma, and this concept that I'm really talking about today is that we chose to be born into our life. It's kind of hard. It's hard to say, like, wow, I chose, like, who am I that I chose this? Or why did somebody else choose something so much more fantastical? But I think we all are working on learning something in this lifetime. And so when we were planning our birth, we were planning it with this eye towards, well, if I am born into this situation, I will have this opportunity to work on this thing about myself that I need to work on. And I think we all really want to put ourselves, before we're born, into the situation that will provide us the most opportunity for growth. And I'm not talking about growth like monetary success. I'm talking about like personal growth and development, because our souls really all want to be better and perfected. And we really learn a lot in the earth school. And so we choose really hard courses sometimes in order to attain the wisdom that comes from going through that hard course. So if you think of earth like a college class, right? Sure, some people are going to choose, basket weaving, and that's great for them. And maybe they have a really cush life, but how much more are they going to learn if they choose to be born into a complicated family scenario in a religious cult in Los Angeles? So maybe I'm smarter. Maybe I chose this really hard path because I have a lot more that I want to get out of life. And maybe when I've had several lifetimes of really figuring it out and becoming wise, maybe I will choose an easier life at the end. And I think that's true. I think a lot of people who are famous or wealthy, and who appear to have an easy life, sometimes they don't really have an easy life, but sometimes they do. And in some ways, I think those people are bigger souls. They've had more lifetimes, and they're actually here for us to learn from them. I think of people like Oprah Winfrey. She obviously was born into a difficult situation, but she rose to the top quickly. And so sometimes you can choose a hard class, but when your soul is already super developed and you're super wise, you're going to rise to the top quickly because you're really here to teach others. And she's in a great position to do that. So I chose a hard class. I think it wasn't as hard maybe as some others, but I'm rising to the top and I'm trying to do my best and I want to get an A. And so this is where I say everybody needs to start. Let's start with acknowledging that we chose to be where we are. We chose to be born to the parents that we were born to, and stop blaming our parents for our situation, or blaming them that they didn't raise us well, or blaming our circumstance for why we're not succeeding or for what's holding us back. Let's stop doing that and let's just take ownership of it. Let's just say, it's a crazy idea. I have no way to prove if it's true or not, but I'm going to own this concept that I chose to be here and I chose to be born to these parents in this place in this time. So what is it that I wanted to learn from this lifetime? And am I really living my best life? So that was another thing that came to me through meditation. I was really struggling with, should I buy a Louis Vuitton handbag? Is that too selfish? Like, why do I even want a Louis Vuitton handbag? And I went into this meditation retreat and I was like, what is that about? Like, why do I want that? And I had this whole experience of myself actually speaking to the sun, and the sun was like Krishna. And I don't even know if I believe in Krishna, but it was so crazy. There was a Krishna statue in the meditation room where we were, and it was really kind of influencing my meditation. And I had this whole conversation, and then I recognized that I was like a goddess on earth, and that I was having this argument with Krishna, and I felt like I had been exiled to the earth. And through this whole meditation realization, it just sounds super kooky, I know. Through this whole realization, I realized like I'm a goddess who's been exiled to the earth to learn something here, and I am like banished to be this ordinary person named Jennifer. And so I can sulk about that and just be like really mad and be like, I'm going to remember who I really am, because I'm really a goddess. I'm not this average person named Jennifer. And you can't keep me here, Krishna. I'm going to remember who I am. And then I thought, well, gosh, when I do get back to wherever I came from after this miserable life is finished, how embarrassing will it be to be like, yeah, I was that girl Jennifer and I didn't do a very good job of it. If I'm really a goddess, I got to do my best here. I got to live this life as Jennifer Quintana as best as I can, and I have to be super successful at it. Otherwise, when I do go back to where I came from and remember who I really am, and I'm talking with all the other goddesses and we're all hanging out having tea, it's going to be kind of embarrassing to say like I didn't really do a lot with that life, right? So I bought the Louis Vuitton handbag after I got back from that meditation retreat, because I am a goddess and I can have a Louis Vuitton handbag if I want to. And I'm doing my best now to live my best life as this ordinary person, Jen Quintana. And I'm a goddess who doesn't remember where I came from, but I know I chose to be born here because I have something to learn or something to teach. And I'm going to be my best self, and I'm going to live my best life. And it starts with owning this first step in the process of self-realization. And that is that we chose our parents and we chose to be born in this time and place. And so I spend a lot of time super sleuthing about who am I really? I do that meditation a lot. I go to those meditation retreats and I ask that question of myself a lot. And I look into my horoscope and I look into my numerology and I look into my birth stories. And I really try to see what are those things about me that are from before or beyond, or will be who I am in my next life. Those things that are not just Jen Quintana, but that are part of my bigger soul experience. So that's where I would say start. Start there. Know yourself. Know what you came in with. Know what tools you have. Know what you're predispositioned to achieve. Know what your sun sign is. Know that you like to store up on toothpaste or that you don't. And so just know those things about yourself and start there. That is your first area of inquiry about who you are and who you were before you were born. And then just really start asking the question, like, why did I choose to be born in this situation? What can I learn from this situation? And sometimes it's not like a great thing that we chose to be born into this situation to learn something. Sometimes it's a repeating pattern from a past life that we just haven't broken free from yet, and that we have another opportunity in this life to break free from. And sometimes it's an injury from a past life that we are still wounded from, that has caused us to be in a situation in this life. I have found out through inquiry, and we'll do this in a later talk about past lives and all of that and patterns that we need to break free from. But I'll just give you a preview. Like, I have learned that I had a past life where I was strangled to death. And so I have fifth chakra blockages, and part of being born into a religion where I didn't really have a voice was part of repeating that pattern of holding on to that injury. So there's a lot of reasons why we choose to be born into the place that we're born into. Some of them are good and some of them are not great. Everything has a reason. It just isn't always a good reason. But as soon as we can start to figure out those reasons and why things are the way they are, we can work within that stream to either move out of a negative pattern and move ourselves forward, or learn a lesson that we came here to learn so that we can also move ourselves forward. So that when at the end of the day, at the end of this long life, we can say that we lived it the best. We learned everything we wanted to learn in this lifetime. We had every experience we wanted to have, and we have become our best version of ourselves. Thank you for joining me today in my dining room. And the next talk will be step 2 in the process of becoming our best selves and designing our best lifestyle. Thank you so much. It's Jen Quintana. I'll talk with you soon. Bye.